Carrie Fisher. How are you, Carrie? Please. Now.
Yeah.
First of all, you were on tenterhooks watching our couple.
I was so tense for the couple. Where
Yeah.
are you?
They're
are
up
they
there.
still together? Where I come from, you'd be broken up by now. Oh.
Should they do it?
Go for it. Really, because you only regret stuff you don't do, I think. Yes.
Yeah.
No, do it. Absolutely.
Hang on, you come from a family where your mother and father between them were married
7 or 8. I'm going to make a call after the show.
7 or 8 times they were married between them.
Yes, they were very either hopeful or dumb. Or a blend. Hope 'em. Hope 'em.
Hope 'em. In your book, which I've been reading during the week, one of your characters says something, and I think I can pull it out here. And I suspect this is what you think yourself, because it says, if I can find it here now, Suzanne thought a law ought to be passed forbidding 2 celebrities from actually breeding.
Yes,
and you are the product.
Well, the skull doesn't grow over completely when they do breed.
Yeah. You are the product of...
Celebrity inbreeding.
Yeah.
Yes. It's like those people in Tennessee in the upcountry.
What, things don't...
Well, you play banjo very well, but that's about it.
I want to go back in time, but not quite as far as when you were 2 years old, because I don't think you probably remember much about that.
I don't remember what happened this morning, so I forgot the term senior moment recently, so I really have a problem with memory.
You have a problem?
Yeah.
But do you think that everything that's happened to you since you were 2 years old really comes down to this moment when your dad walked out?
No.
No.
That would be silly. No, I don't. You know, you get on in life, and I'm less and less inclined to sort of blame things on things. I mean, I've had friends that are in their 50s saying, you know, this is because my father chased me around the kitchen with a knife. Yeah. And you sort of want to say, maybe when you were in your 30s, but you now have to sort of, it's about you, or, you know. Yeah. I don't do that stuff.
You don't do that stuff. So the fact that Eddie Fisher runs away with Elizabeth Taylor...
It's a good story.
Yeah, but it's nothing to do with the way you are.
It probably is, but that doesn't, you know, that and a dime won't even get me a cup of coffee anymore.
All right, so your life, though, I mean, you did... I don't know whether the word is tumble into mental illness. Is that the right term? Did you fall into...
I skipped.
You skipped into it?
Into mental illness.
How old were you when you became disturbed, or you recognized...
Disturbed?
Yeah, in yourself that you
That was recently during the engagement, the disturbed thing.
No, but you were a teenager.
No, not really. You know, I don't think it's easy to... All teenagers are mentally ill.
Okay.
Am I wrong? So I don't think you diagnosed that then. And then all alcoholism and drug addiction looks like manic depression. That's the goal, you know, for this. So, but I was told at about 23, and I didn't buy it. I still don't buy it sometimes.
What, that you're manic depressive?
No.
Depression, people can recognize...
Yeah,
depression.
looks bad.
Yeah, but people are miserable. They are uncommunicative.
It ruins all television.
Yeah. The mania, though, on the other hand, that might be harder to spot.
Why? No, it's great. I mean, that's the... I've met people that have depression, and I always say, you know, you got... One mood is the meal, and the next one is the check. Now, if I'm going to have to pay the check, I really want to be able to have a good meal.
If you're going to be depressed, you want to have mania.
Absolutely. So if I'm going to have one, I want to have both sides. So I did get both sides, and it was more and more recognizable as we went along. So when I wrote my book, I kind of wanted to, you know, write about the fun part of mental illness.
Yeah, the shopping.
The shopping, the... Well, not for me, but for a lot of people, the sexual promiscuity, the traveling, you know, gambling, whatever. You know, that sounds like a great weekend in Vegas. It doesn't sound like an illness at all, right?
Yeah, but of course you have to pay.
Big time, yeah.
Big time. I don't know whether you regard yourself as being recovered or whether it's just an ongoing balancing act.
Well, you recover, I think, from, yes, it is a balancing act. I mean, I don't think you can ever sort of diminish how difficult it can be for most people to sort of, you know, especially with recovering from whatever substance abuse you did and so on. And the recovery from any kind of, you know, manic depression is medication and having the will to sort of keep that together. And you have to do it if you have a child.
Yeah, which you have.
I have a child, so I am not then, you know, I cannot do this stuff anymore.
Yeah. Everyone recognizes Postcards from the Edge as autobiographical fiction.
Faction.
Faction. The Best Awful, your new book, that's also autobiographical. And one of the things about your character, the leading lady, if you like, is that she has a husband who fathers a child and then walks out.
Well, he forgets to tell her that he's gay.
What do you mean he forgets to tell her?
He's very busy, and it slips his mind, and then she forgets to notice.
Does he know he's gay?
Yes. And then he accuses her of pushing him into homosexuality, and I said, because she took codeine again. And so she says, I didn't notice that warning on the bottle. I thought it said heavy machinery, not homosexuality. I could have been driving those tractors all along.
So this was a guilt trip he was trying to visit on her.
At the beginning, well, I think it was really very difficult for him, and he was afraid. You know, he didn't want to be.
Yeah. So how much of that is the character and how much of that is in your own life?
Well, it was in my own life. It was the same thing.
The story was the same.
It was quite similar. I tried to write memoir about it, and then you just don't want to because there are real people involved, and I did show it to my ex, and I said, you know, anything you don't, you know, that's uncomfortable for you, you should take out. And I have a child with him, and I always was very clear that this is my daughter's father. That's who he is. He's not someone that did anything really that betrayed me, or if he did it out of fear or whatever. I don't want to write anything difficult for anybody.
In the book, your character misses him terribly and realizes that, okay, he's gay, but I still loved him. I mean, I loved him for loads of things.
And I knew he was going to be a wonderful father, and he is. I just also thought he would be like a good mate. Yeah. And, you know, I've never been known for my judgment calls. You know.
Well, you married Paul Simon.
That wasn't like a, you know.
How long did that last, by the way?
It lasted, actually, I always get sort of hit with, you know, the marriage only lasted 2 years. Ooh, this doesn't apply to you. But our our engagement was about 6 years, and then we got divorced, and then we started dating again. Don't do that.
You're saying to Aisling and Garrett that
yes, don't do anything that I do. But I had lots of advice based on nothing in my experience.
You regret nothing?
I think a lot of regret, certainly in my case, is like self-pity. It doesn't, what am I going to do with it, you know? So I don't, things could have gone better in certain instances, but what's the good of that?
You know, they talk about too much too soon for young people, for young actors, writers, whatever. I mean, you were in the movies, probably against all the best.
I was in nightclub work when I was 13, like a lot of you.
Yeah?
A show of hands, I'm sure a number of you were doing nightclub work at 13.
What do you mean nightclub work?
I was working in Vegas.
But you were just serving?
No,
dancing?
A waitress.
That's
no,
yeah.
No, I was in my mother's nightclub act.
Okay, what were you doing?
Singing.
Can you remember the song?
Oh, sure. One of the songs actually was Bridge Over Troubled Water.
Yeah.
Idiotic, right? My father was a short Jewish singer, so not having a huge imagination, I married a
short Jewish singer called Paul Simon. But isn't that bizarre that you were singing his song?
Just waiting, biding my time, like a spider. And I sang another song called Meantime, and some tragic, very melancholic song.
Because another statement you make in the book, again through the words of your character, is that when you're born into Hollywood, it's virtually impossible to escape.
I know. Well, I always say you click your heels and you wind up where you start. So I'm still... I mean, I did get out for many years, but I'm back. And my mother lives next door.
Your mother lives next door. Your mother...
is fantastic.
What does she think of your revelations?
Nothing. Here's what my mother doesn't like. A, that I don't sing professionally or do wonderful things with those lyrics of yours,
Yeah.
darling, and I cook now, and she thinks that's insane.
Why?
So the drug thing, that's sort of in keeping with a lot of our alcoholic family, many of whom are Irish and Indian. But my cooking, she says like this to other people. Carrie's in the kitchen, cooking, like I'm shaving my head.
She disapproves. I mean, what does she want? Does she want, like, a Mexican to cook for you?
Oh, God.
I know it's politically incorrect,
No,
but I mean, that's what happens.
Said, there's someone that works with her, so I went down one day and I said, I'm going to go up and make dinner for Billy, my daughter. And she said, don't do it. Let Mary come up and make some of those chicken crepes. What are you doing that for? Because it's not part of our thing.
Yeah, of course, your mum, Hollywood royalty, and your dad, Eddie Fisher, Hollywood royalty.
Right. I guess, if there is such a...
Yeah, he ran off then with Elizabeth Taylor.
A wonderful cook.
Is she?
No.
No. I wouldn't reckon...
None of them can cook.
She couldn't boil an egg, I would imagine.
My mother makes cold toast. And I don't really know about Elizabeth, but she's great broad. She is.
She's a great broad, and yet she seduced your old man.
Seduced him. She seduced probably a lot of these people here. I mean, who wouldn't go out with Elizabeth Taylor?
So you don't hold any... I mean, there's a picture of you which just popped up there of you with Elizabeth.
She's great. My father has great taste in women. He just is unstable. No, he's not unstable. But he just leaves them and, you know, buys 175 silk suits in every different color. That's not stable. He's been bankrupt 4 times. But all the women he's with, Connie Stevens, my mother, Elizabeth Taylor, his last wife, Betty, who passed away, and now he's dating 50-year-olds.
How old is he?
Well, he's 78, and I'll be, you know, 50 in 5 years.
But you don't speak to him, do you?
I do speak to him. Because, again, there's a great line that I heard somewhere else, which is, resentment is like drinking a poison and waiting for the other person to die. I'm not interested.
You don't carry chips in your shoulder?
It's only a bother to me, then.
Yeah. But what do you think of him?
He doesn't... Look, my mother has great character. My mother's loyal. She's a family person. She keeps her word. Yeah. She's eccentric as all get out. Not that I am. But my father has none of those traits. My father is he has what I call emotional ADD. When you're in the room with him, you're the greatest person he ever met. You look how great you are and how brilliant. He can't even believe he has anything to do. How fantastic. He goes into the hallway and sees a jacket he likes. And that's all wiped away.
What? He talks to the jacket?
The jacket he wants. He has to find out where it came from. He's going to buy 4. But I don't know where that came from. Does it worry
you that, you know, you've got half his DNA?
Worry me. I was going to say I had my DNA fumigated. But he's very charming, and that was what's so heartbreaking is, you know, I would say about him, what you see is what you don't get.
Is it true your mum said that Elizabeth Taylor and she, who've become firm friends, that Elizabeth did her the greatest favour in the world, getting rid of your dad?
I said that.
Oh, you said that?
He got Elizabeth did us a favour and got Eddie Fisher out of the house. He's not a good family guy. He's a great date for any of you that are interested that are 50 or younger. At 78, he's a very young man. No, he just is not a parent. And he doesn't ever show up. But recently, he said, I'm coming to town, and I counted on it.
And he did.
I haven't done that since I'm 3.
So he disappointed you predictably
I couldn't
yet
believe
again.
it. I called my brother and I said, you'll never guess who didn't show up today. And I said, really, take as long as you want, because I've got a lot of time. No, I mean, that's just what he does. And if I make up a thing that he has to be other than who he is, I'm going to be this idiotic 50-some-year-old human being waiting for a father that's never done anything else.
Did he read any of your stuff?
I don't know, but I read his book.
Yeah, what did you think? He dished the dirt on the rest of the girls.
He writes about every woman he ever slept with, or many of them have said he didn't sleep with them, what their bodies were like and what the sex was like. That includes my mother.
That's
so
kind
it
of
creates
hard.
a situation where if I see him, it's a betrayal against, I mean,
but
I called Elizabeth and I said, did you love him? And she said, we kept Mike Todd alive. which was her husband who died in the plane crash, who my brother's named after, which is not a good thing to do if the person's still alive.
No.
Not that that was deliberate, but anyway.
Yeah, it's a confused life you have. You see, I wonder...
It's colorful.
Whether or not Hollywood, I hear people who live in LA and they say it's... People from this part of the world, it's the most boring town in the world. People don't drink wine, they drink water. They have different degrees of carbonation in their water. They want a particular kind of lettuce leaf for lunch. They go to bed at 9:30. It's boring, boring, boring.
Well,
when do they get up to all the shenanigans?
Well, I think the town is the town. I always like calling it a town, like there's a dry goods store and, you know, a mayor and feed that we feed our horses. The restaurants largely close at 10.
At 10.
And I'm hard-pressed to say where do people go to eat later? I recently had a 29-year-old British boy that was making an album, staying in my guest house. He managed to stay out until 4 and 5 in the morning.
On his own.
Somewhere in Los Angeles there is stuff to do. But
it's hard
I
to
don't
find.
know where it is. He knows. And I don't know about the lettuce leaf stuff and everything. I don't drink water because fish have relations in it. But, you know, I do know other people that do.
Yeah. Your books, as I say, autobiographical. Do you worry at all about exposing yourself so much? I mean, you're ruthlessly honest about yourself.
As soon as I say some of this stuff, it ceases to be as true. You know, there's some people who say you're only as sick as your secrets. I don't know. I mean, there's the real truth about me doesn't exist in language. So once I sort of say a lot of this stuff, I don't know. I mean, I have people coming up to me and saying, I identified with a lot in your book, and I always say, I'm so sorry. But some of this, because I did try to sort of depict mania and depression and so on, I don't have as many people coming up to me and saying that.
Yeah. The whole business of having an authentic life in Hollywood. I mean, you could live somewhere else, but your gay ex-husband lives in Los Angeles, and you want him to...
Fag Dad Cafe is what I call it. I know that's politically incorrect, but at the time I was upset that I made that up.
Okay, so you want to stay close.
Because I didn't have a father, and my daughter adores him, and it's the best thing.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't live there for one reason, because it's a company town, and because if you're out on an evening, invariably you will end up talking about what film grossed what on the weekend.
Yeah.
That's horrible.
But this business of authenticity, who was it said, you'll be able to tell me, that, you know, if you can fake sincerity, you've got it made?
I don't know, but I love that person. But everyone, you mean, I always say it's the seeming. My parents are two people that make their living depicting people. You know, my mother frequently acts very naturally. Yeah. But if you have to act natural, what is that? And I'll do it too. I mean, my generation of showbiz people have a natural act, but it's you know, and there's her generation.
So you never know.
No.
When they're being authentic and when they're acting.
Because you learn to act authentic. You learn to act like yourself on a talk show.
So am I not talking to you at all then?
Partly. I'm not here. No, you learn to do that, and if you do it too well, you have nothing left over for real intimacy. That's why I try not to do it as much.
Yeah. Well, it's the trick, isn't it, to give to your
Just
public
so much.
Whatever percentage you can to be authentic and keep a little bit left for yourself.
Yes, and some people that do it so well get stalkers.
It is fascinating talking to you, Carrie Fisher. The Best Awful is the title of your new book, and I'm being very entertained by it.
Well, I'm
somewhat
glad.
frightened by it as well. But that's what it's like.
It won't end frightening, I don't think.
All right. Carrie Fisher, thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you.